Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today I'm in this 2024 Toyota Hilux and I'm going to tell you all about it and try and work out whether or not you should buy one. Let's get started. Without getting philosophical, in life when you want something, there are just certain brands or models that you gravitate towards naturally. You know, when you want a vacuum cleaner, you buy a Dyson. When you want a luxury SUV, you buy a Range Rover. When you want a tough pickup truck that'll outlive your children, you buy a Toyota Hilux. This has just always been the case. Of course, there are lots of other options on the market these days, but I still think the Hilux has the best reputation when it comes to reliability and hardiness. It says a lot when Toyota will cover this for 10 years, or actually 11 years, because they'll cover it for 10 years plus that final year, so 11 years or 100,000 miles. No other brand out there has the confidence to cover their products for 11 years. That tells you an awful lot. Do you remember the Hilux they tried to kill off on Top Gear many years ago? They just couldn't kill it. They set fire to it, they dropped it in the ocean, they even put it on the roof of a tower block, then demolished the tower block, and it still ran afterwards. Something else to mention as well, whenever you're watching the news and they're talking about some conflict in the Middle East, the Taliban or ISIS or whoever's causing chaos at that particular moment, watch what they're driving. They're always in a Toyota Hilux, always. So I think it's fair to say, if you value reliability above all else, the Hilux is still the one to go for. But what about everything else? Well, styling wise, it certainly works for me. I think it looks really cool. Of course, you can still go for a base model with steel wheels. They offer several variants. You have a single cab, a king cab, a crew cab, all sorts of stuff. But if you want a nice Hilux that you can also use as a car, then you've got three different options. You can go for the Invincible X, or the GR Sport. The model I'm in today is the Invincible X. Now this is probably the most luxurious. The GR Sport is a couple of £1,000s more, and it looks cooler, but that's more focused on sportiness really. Well, as sporty as a pickup truck can be anyway, but the GR Sport definitely looks cooler. Although I suppose that's subjective, isn't it? If you choose a decent colour like this one's finished in Dakuma Grey Metallic with the contrasting black bits, it just looks really smart. I think it looks at home out here in the country where it belongs, but it also looks cool cruising the streets of the city too. It definitely has an urban feel to it. It's big, imposing and chunky, it just looks as though it could tackle anything. I particularly like the dark wheels with this one. It works well against the grey and the black. Up front, the grille's quite striking, as are the lights. I also really like the styling of the rear lights. It's a good looking truck, this. Styling is always down to your own specific taste, but I think the Hilux scores well. Bear in mind this generation of Hilux, this is the 8th generation. It's been around since 2016, so it is getting on a bit, and yet I still think it looks quite modern and current. Let's move on to the interior then. This Invincible X model has everything on it you could possibly wish for, and some. And crucially, it all feels as though it'd last for 30 years. It all feels solid and robust. Sadly though, none of it feels particularly luxurious, not in the same way that my previous Discovery 4 felt luxurious anyway. But it does feel quite hard wearing. Everything feels well built, there are no annoying rattles or squeaks. I like how traditional it is. For example, I like how you get a proper old-fashioned handbrake. You rarely see that these days. On a workhorse vehicle like this, you shouldn't have a silly, complicated electronic switch. I think you're just asking for trouble. I also like that Toyota have done the best to make this as car-like as possible, so it is quite easy to live with. So for example, you've got 4 auto windows. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but on something like the Discovery Commercial, you only had 2. I also like the fact that it's got power folding mirrors, again something the Discovery Commercial didn't have. Both the front seats and the rear seats are heated, which is quite unusual. It comes with cameras everywhere, and if you press this button down here that says View on it, a bit like you get in a Lexus, it gives you a 360 view of the whole car. It comes with keyless entry, sat-nav, CarPlay, Bluetooth media, it has it all, so it is really easy to live with. Also, owing to the fact it's got cameras absolutely everywhere, it's quite easy to park this in a supermarket car park. It doesn't feel that big or clumsy, fortunately. It just feels like I'm driving a Land Cruiser. It's also got nice modern features like lane keep assist and radar cruise control. You can also download the Toyota app, which connects to the car and gives you some information. Now this comes free of charge from Toyota. I've got a similar thing on my Land Rover, but, surprise surprise, Land Rover make you pay for a subscription, whereas Toyota do not. In terms of interior space then, you've got plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom, plenty of elbow room, so this isn't like driving an old Defender. It's quite comfortable really. I've got a nice soft leather armrest here, the seats are nice and soft and comfortable, the leather steering wheel feels nice to use, and again the steering isn't too heavy, it's nicely assisted. I also like the fact that you get proper physical climate control buttons, they're not buried within this touchscreen. Down here you can switch between low gears and high gears, or 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive. It's also got a lock-in rear diff, and you get several charging ports and USB ports. I really like the fact that it isn't too fussy or complex. It's nicely traditional. There's plenty of space here for all your things. You get 2 big cup holders there. You get another cup holder here which pops out of the dash. You get some more storage under this central armrest. You get decent sized door pockets. It's all very practical. Moving to the back, there's plenty of space for rear passengers as well. You also get somewhere for your sunglasses up here, which is a nice little touch. I just like the fact that you get a normal gear lever, a normal handbrake, and all of the buttons and switches are easy to use, easy to find, and clearly labelled. So I think in the case of the Hilux, it's just, you know, what you see is what you get. There are a few things I don't like though. So this touchscreen infotainment system here does work reasonably well, but I think it looks a bit dated now. Take for example the camera quality. It could be better, couldn't it? I mean, bear in mind this truck is about a week old. It's 8-year-old technology, that. I also don't like the fact that the mirrors don't fold in when you lock the car. I've gone through all the settings and options, and I can't seem to select that, and it's quite irritating. I also don't like the fact they haven't utilised better the space in the back. So with other trucks, I think it's the Ford Ranger, they've created like a tool chest area under the rear bench seat. So you fold the seat up and you've got somewhere safe for your tools. But with the Hilux, they haven't bothered, and it just seems like a waste of space. I think Toyota genuinely missed a trick with that one. Perhaps the most irritating thing about this whole car though is the fact the tailgate isn't linked to the central lock-in. So instead, what you get from Toyota is a blade key. How old-fashioned is that? It's almost like somebody at Toyota completely forgot to think about it, which is a bit un-Toyota-y, isn't it? They always think of everything. If you think about buying a used Hilux, or any used car or bike in fact, you really need to do a thorough vehicle history check before you hand over any cash. Now I always use a company called Car Vertical. They're really thorough and they're not expensive. They're cheaper still if you use my promo code HIGHPEAK. That's HIGHPEAK, all one word, and you'll save yourself 20% off each and every check that you do. It's a really thorough check and it can prevent you buying a complete lemon. So it'll tell you whether it's ever been stolen, written off, had a mileage rollback, or has outstanding finance on it. In addition to that, it shows the MOT history, the ownership changes, the specs, the market value. Sometimes it'll even show photographs of the last time it was on sale, and it'll show photographs of the damage if it was written off. So it is a handy tool. And it isn't just a UK thing either, it works in 35 different countries. If it's had a mishap in Malaga or a bump in Belgrade, Car Vertical will tell you. It's really easy to use as well. All you do is go to carvertical.com, type in the reg or the VIN, and away you go. Like I said though, don't forget to use my promo code HIGHPEAK for 20% off each and every check that you do. Either type in HIGHPEAK where it says promo, or click the link below in the video description. I also must give a quick shout out to Reese and Gareth from RRG Stockport Toyota, who were really helpful when I was buying this truck. So yeah, cheers guys, thank you. On to the engines then. So this one uses a 2.8 litre turbo diesel. They also offer it as a mild hybrid too. It's an inline 4 in case you're wondering, and it's quite powerful. If you go for one of the lesser models, then they come with a 2.4 with about 150 horsepower. They do feel slow. 0 to 60 on those takes about 13.5 seconds, whereas this one produces 204 brake horsepower, and it's quite torquey. So if you kick down, there's plenty of power to overtake. It isn't particularly noisy either. I mean, you can definitely tell that it's a diesel engine, but it is quite refined really. I was expecting it to be a bit more gruff and loud than that. Now, if you've stumbled across this video because you're genuinely thinking about buying a Hilux, you probably might not be too bothered about its 0 to 60 time, but I shall tell you anyway. This 2.8 litre turbo diesel non-hybrid will do 0 to 60 in around 10 seconds. So it isn't quick, but it's quick enough. It does feel like quite a powerful engine, this. Fuel-wise, depending how you drive, this will do about 27 miles per gallon around town and close to 40 on a steady motorway run. So it isn't too thirsty. I've been quite impressed with it so far. It also has start-stop, which you can turn off. It uses AdBlue and it's got a DPF. But something I've noticed, it does its DPF regen whilst you're on the move. It doesn't require you to pull over or visit a workshop like some cars do. The Hilux is available with a 6-speed manual or a 6-speed automatic. Now the model I'm in today is a 6-speed auto, and it's quite a good box. It's a traditional automatic gearbox with a torque converter, so it's very predictable, but still, it does a reasonable job. The kickdowns, for example, are, well, pretty decent really. And these gearboxes are as reliable as you like. Overall then, I found it very pleasant to use and very easy to live with. It promises to be very capable off-road too, because Toyota have improved the approach angle and they've increased its weight in depth. Also, I think it's worth pointing out that some Hiluxes will tow up to 3.5 tons. Now, my biggest criticism with pickup trucks is always the god-awful ride quality. You've probably noticed me bouncing around in this today, so the Hilux, unfortunately, is no different. It's better, don't get me wrong. It is better than many I've driven, especially the D-Max Isuzu, but you're never fooled into thinking that you're in an SUV. You're constantly reminded that you're in a bouncy work truck. The trouble with pickup trucks, because they're a rough and ready commercial vehicle, underneath they're about as advanced as Marie Antoinette's state coach. They still use leaf spring suspension on the back, like an old Willis Jeep. They're just not very advanced. They're always quite crude. And that unfortunately means as soon as you go over a bit of rough road, you can feel absolutely everything. If, like me, you've come out of a Discovery 4 commercial with air suspension into one of these, then you're in for a bit of a shock. It isn't horrendous or anything, it's just how they are, I guess. So it's not bad really, apart from the slightly bouncy ride. I enjoy using it. Moving back to the cargo area, to the bed at the back, the Hilux will take a payload of up to a ton. I don't think this particular Hilux ever will, to be fair, but it's nice to know you can if you need to. One thing that surprised me actually, I was expecting a load of body roll with this, and it's not really there. This one's fitted with a factory roller cover which you can slide open or closed using this little strap. Rivals like the Ford Ranger have top trumped this now, and they've fitted it with a remote control and an electric motor, making your life a bit easier, but again, I just think that's something else to go wrong. Here in the UK, used prices for this 8th generation Hilux are still quite strong. They've got good residual values. And that's another good thing about the Hilux, they hold the money better than most. For example, I had a look on Auto Trader earlier, and a high mileage early example from 2016, and when I say high mileage I mean quite high, one with 150 or 160,000 miles on the clock. See that bounciness then? Lost my voice. That'll set you back around 16 grand. So like I say, they do hold the money quite well. This generation of Hilux had a major facelift in 2020, so I'd perhaps advise you go for one of those. Brand new, these cost $52,995, so they are a lot of money, and there's a waiting list. If you order one brand new today, in summer 24, you won't get it on your driveway until January 25. Still, that waiting list should keep used prices quite buoyant. I think although this model's in its 8th year now and it isn't without its design flaws, I still think it's the one to go for, all things considered. Many people will say that you're better off going for a brand new Ford Ranger or VW Amarok, and while they might drive better, I wouldn't personally. I just know they won't last as long and they won't be half as dependable. Before you call me a hypocrite, because I always talk down the importance of reliability, it depends what you're using the car for. Now if this is your work vehicle, which, you know, let's face it, it probably will be, you need to be able to get in it and it work every single day, every single time. Because as basic as this sounds, if you use this truck to earn your money and it's off the road because it's in for repair yet again, you're not earning any money. And for that reason and that reason alone, the Hilux has still got to be the go-to pickup truck. There's a new model due in the next couple of years, so I'm quite looking forward to seeing how they improve the issues that I found with this one. We'll see. Also, whilst they're at it, Toyota should really overhaul their website, because if you're in the market for a brand new Hilux, there's no online configurator, so you can't play around with options or colours like you can with most other brands. It's annoying. Right, well I think that's about it then guys. I think I've told you everything I know about the Hilux. So thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. I'll leave the links below. And yeah, I'll see you next time. See ya.